Hi, I'm Mike Ignatoski, the creator of the PurpleWolf basketball spreadsheet, the spreadsheet that aims to help you get more enjoyment out of your tabletop basketball projects by doing a lot of the work, if not all the work, of tracking your team and players' game stats and season stats, as well as team standings and schedules. By doing that, you'll get more time to play your games, have more fun, and maybe take on projects that you wouldn't otherwise take on. In this video, I'm going to talk about manual entry stats, a feature that was introduced in PurpleWolf version 2.0, and I feel like it's I don't know, maybe a game changer, but definitely opens up some more possibilities of how PurpleWolf can help you out with your basketball project. So let's talk about it for a minute, and then we're going to do a demonstration. The first thing I want to talk about is just what is manual entry of your game result and stats, and why use it? Manual entry game stats is a PurpleWolf feature that offers another option to using the event logger as a way to enter game stats. So with the event logger, you're entering the events as they happen, and you play your game one event at a time, like one rebound, one shot, one assist. But for manual entry, you just enter the game totals, not those individual events, like it does in the game logger. So why would you want to use it? Well, I have a few things listed here. One is just to have the option of recording game results and stats from game score sheets that you've played before you even had PurpleWolf. Maybe it was last week, maybe it was last year, maybe it was 20 years ago. But if you still have some of these score sheets around from projects that you were fired up when you started, but the stats dragged you down and you never finished it, well, now you might have a reason to dig those score sheets out and maybe complete your project. Another option, or another reason you might want to use this feature, is that you prefer scoring with pen and paper, or maybe it could be another electronic form, but you found that that's a faster, easier way for you to do it, but you want to still track your project stats, so you could keep scoring your games that way, and then enter the results into PurpleWolf afterwards. Another reason is it allows a little more portability, since there's really no computer required to score your game on with a piece of paper. So that way, if you're on a tabletop basketball Caribbean cruise and you don't bring your laptop, then you can play some games and then take your score sheets home and enter them in when you get home. The last one I have here is that just a note that PurpleWolf projects or leagues, allow for you to enter the game stats for each game in using either method. You can't switch mid-game, but for any given game, you can use the event logger, or you can enter them in manually. So it's flexible that way. So that's kind of what it is, and maybe why some reasons you might want to use it in some circumstances. So now let's go through an example of how it works. Okay, this is my PurpleWolf spreadsheet, and I've got a custom league here that was created to replay the 1977 NBA playoffs, 76-77 season. And I have some score sheets. A shout out to Joe Brooks, who sent me these score sheets so I could use them as a test for this manual entry feature, which I really appreciate Joe helping me out. So thanks a lot, Joe. So you can see here I've already entered in 4 games, and right now I'm in the process of doing this 7-game series between the Sixers and the Spurs. So now I'm going to start on game 2. And I already loaded this game into the score sheet. You can see here. And I'm going to zoom out of my score sheet a little bit so you can get a kind of a bird's eye view of the whole thing. So I kind of refer to this part of the score sheet as a score book. Down here is the event log. So when you use the event logger, it records your events down here as well as in the score book. And as it records the score book, it updates the stats real time. Over here, this is the manual entry table, I guess you'd say. And this is where, if you go with the manual method, this is what you're going to use to get your stats into the score sheet. So now I'm going to zoom back so we can see it a little bit better, or maybe less, but at least you can see. So after I loaded my game in, I guess the first thing you'd want to do is make sure that, looking at your score sheet, that you have all the players in the lineup. And if you need to change your lineup, you could click this edit here. If I wanted to change the Sixer lineup, this would bring up the lineup editor and I could change things. Really, I usually just want to make sure that my top 5 guys were the starters and everybody that played is at least on the bench. And you don't even really have to do that. It depends what your preference is. But as long as you have them in either the starter or the bench, then you'll be able to enter the stats for those players. But if you wanted to switch the order so it matches your score sheet, you could do that here by saying, I want, Irving at the top, and you could adjust your order here. That's just a matter of your preference. I'm just going to cancel this. So I have that set up. The next thing I want to do is switch this stat entry mode setting right here. And you can see here, if I hover on this, it'll tell me that there's 2 ways to enter the stats with the event logger or the manual entry. And I can click this cell to change it. So right now it's in event logger mode. And what that means is, let me scroll back over here. If I were to, click this event logger, because the game is pretty much ready to start. I got the first quarter, I just loaded it, my lineups are good. When I click this event logger, it does what I expected to do, launch the event logger, and then I could record my game play by play if I were actually playing it on my tabletop. But we're not going to do that, so I'm going to close this. And we're going to click this, like it says, and we'll switch it. And it asks me, do I want to change it to the stat entry mode to use manual entry? And I'm going to say yes. So now it tells me that the manual entry game result in stats table has been unlocked. Okay. And then it kind of shifts the screen so I can see this manual entry table. You can see here it says unlocked. And over here you can see now that stat entry mode is set to manual. And I should say here, these 2 kind of pinkish purple buttons kind of shift the automatically scroll the screen. So this will make sure you can see the manual entry table, and this view scorebook will get you back to the scorebook area. You can obviously scroll it manually too. But what I wanted to show here was, while this is in manual entry mode here, if I were to click the event logger, it'll tell me that the event logger is not available if I'm in manual entry mode. So that's just kind of a way you can't switch during the game as far as the stat entry mode goes. So we're in manual entry. I'm going to click this button to jump over here. And now it's already unlocked, so we're ready to start entering our stats. So let's see how that's going to work. Okay, so as far as entering numbers goes, there's really, I guess, 3 sections. You have the scoreboard, the visitor, and then the home team. So I'm going to start by entering up here, but it doesn't really matter what order you use. So if I just put my scores by the quarters in here, you can see it automatically totals it as I go. And luckily Joe writes very neatly, so I don't have to squint or decipher anything. And that is the final score of the game. 112, 132. The Sixers take the Spurs in game 2 of this best of 7. And now I'm going to jump down here and start entering the data for the Spurs. So a couple things here. These green columns, you can't change. If I were to click in here and try to enter some points or something, it's going to give me this message that says this is a protected cell and you can't change anything here. So it's these light blue ones, that's where you can enter the numbers. And you can see up here it can handle up to 5 overtimes. But you don't have to fill them all in, obviously, if you didn't need them. So, and down here on the in this manual table here, at least in this version, which is 2.0 that I'm using, these columns are set. They're fixed. You can't change them. I'll see in the future I may allow these to be configured by the user, but for the initial version, they're not configurable. You have to use the order that they are here. So I'm keeping an open mind about that. And with this first column of minutes, that's also optional. It is somewhat connected to, there's a game option. If I go down to my game option sheet here, this number 4. And if you have this set to on, which is that you are tracking and validating minutes played, if that is on, then it will basically not let you proceed unless you have the right number of minutes entered for your players. But if it's off, like it is here, it's optional. It'll let you enter the minutes, but it won't stop you if they're not entered or they don't add up correctly, but it'll maybe just give you a warning message. So you can see these categories here. We have minutes, 2-point field goals made, 2-point field goals attempted, 3-pointers made, threes attempted, free throws made, free throws attempted, offensive rebound, defensive rebound, assists, steals, blocks, turnovers, and fouls. In this initial version, there's not a place to enter technical fouls. So, but if there's an outcry, I can probably add that. But so that's what's here. And as you enter them, you'll see down in this green here, it automatically will compute their points as well as these team totals. So let me add some numbers here starting. And you can, as far as zeros go, you don't have to enter zeros. You can put a 0 in or leave it blank, but it'll treat them the same. So if I look at Mike Gale, it says he was 3 for 9. In this 77 NBA, there are no 3-pointers, so these are always blank. He didn't have any free throws or rebounds, but he had an awesome game of dishing it out. He had 11 assists, 3 steals, a block, no turnovers, and 2 fouls. So one other thing I'll kind of mention here, and it's an Excel preference, which is whether you want to use the enter key. Like, let me just jump here to Gervin. Gervin was 6 for 17. So if I put a 6 and hit enter, right now I have it automatically moves to the cell to the right. And that's a feature you can set up in your Excel. Or you can enter the number in and just use your arrow key and say move the arrow to the right, and it'll do what you want to. So if you're hitting enter and it's going down or going some other way other than to the right, it's possible to change that in Excel to make it do make it go the way you want when you hit enter. So that's something you can. It's over here in these options somewhere down here at the bottom. Might be different in your different. I'm not sure exactly where it is in here, but somewhere in here, it is, maybe it's advanced. Yeah, right here. After pressing enter, move the selection what direction, and I have it going to the right, but you can switch it to whatever you want it to do. Okay, I'm sorry about that rabbit hole, but just in case, this, that may come into play here when you're trying to do this as quickly as possible. Okay, so you can see here, as soon as I put in this 6, it has 12 points for Gervin. And as I enter in, it says he was 2 for 4 from the line, so 2, 4. No offensive rebounds, 3 defensive rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 5 turnovers, and 4 fouls. So you can see as you go, it'll automatically sum up their points and see what they've got. So I'm going to just jump ahead now and do the rest of these so you don't have to listen to me read you a bunch of numbers, and we'll pick it back up when I got that done. Okay, I'm back. I entered all my numbers. I tested the validation once, but then I decided I would undo it, at least for the Spurs here, because I wanted to show that, here when I entered it, I didn't put any zeros in, but when you do the validation, it populates all the blank cells with zeros. So, but I want to kind of show how that works. So now that I've entered my numbers, the first thing I recommend is just look at these scores and make sure they add up to what you just entered in. So, here it shows these team totals, and these scores have to match. There's not a lot of validation that the spreadsheet can do, but it can do some. And the first thing is make sure these points all add up right. So once you think you've entered in all your stats, you then click this green validate manual entry button up here. So that's what I'm going to do. And the first thing it says is, based on the scoreboard, the last period was the 4th quarter. If it's wrong, correct it. So that's just kind of confirming that you didn't have any overtime or whatever else. If this were a tie, it wouldn't let you proceed. So I'm just going to say okay. And then it's giving me a warning here. It says the visitor team times have totaled to 0, and it was expecting 240. Do I want to correct it? Now, if I were worried about the minutes in this project, I would. But in this project, I'm not worried about minutes played being entered. So I'm just going to say, no, I don't want to correct this, and that's okay. This has to do with that option we looked at, because it's not on, that's why this is a warning. If the option were on, this would be an error, and I'd have to fix this. But I don't want to correct that because I'm not putting in minutes. So that was that. Then it tells me, this is what I was hoping to see. Good news, the manual entry game results appear to be valid. Okay, so before I click the OK, I want to say what it's checking. So first it checks these points that they add up and match to the scoreboard. It'll also check the attempts and makes for each thing. I think if I'm going to say no here, so I'm going to stop. I'm just going to go and change this Olberding to a 1 here. And let's try this validation. Yep, it's a 4-quarter game. No. And here it says, I got an error. And Olberding's 2-point field goal, he has more makes than attempts. So this is a fail. So that's one of the things it does check. And now it tells me I got to fix it. Okay. It checks these points, and it makes sure that any of these 2s, 3s, or free throws, you can't have more makes than attempts, which makes sense. So I'm going to fix Olberding, which he was 2 for 2 in this game. And you can see also when it does the validation, it fills in this DNP for the did not play. If they don't have anything here, it does that. And Now let's do this validation again. So if it finds any errors, you just click OK. You go back and fix it, and you just kind of keep validating until you pass the validation test. So I'm going to click the validation again. Yes, it's still a 4-quarter game. I don't want to correct these minutes. I think I have a little bug here because it shows the visitors team twice, but really the second one is the home team. I'll have to fix that. And now I say, good news, it appears to be valid. Okay. Now, it asks me, do I want to lock the manual entry table and copy it to the official scorebook? And now I'm going to say yes, because to my knowledge, this is all good. Before I do that, I would say, if on your own manual score sheet you had the totals of rebounds or steals or any other team totals, I would say that's worth checking. Just checking this against your score sheet to see if you had any discrepancies. I mean, it's possible that this, might, when you enter them in here, you might find errors on your paper score sheet. But maybe also your paper score sheet might help you make sure that you enter these in correctly if they don't match. So that's just a tip. Okay, but back here, do I want to lock these and copy to the scorebook? Yes, that's the next thing I want to do. So I'm going to click yes. And then it tells me that it's been locked. You see here now it changed from unlocked to locked, and it's going to copy the stuff to the scorebook cells. So it does a little Excel magic there. And now I get a new message that says, if you're ready, you can save your manual entry stats by clicking the Save Game button. Then it gives me a reminder that says, before you save your stats, you can enter some game notes. And if you need to make any corrections, you can unlock the manual entry table and proceed. So I got basically 3 choices of what I want to do next after I click OK. I can either click the Save Game button, which is, you can't quite see it, it's over here on the left, or I can enter some game notes and then click the Save button, or I can click OK and go and click this Unlock button over here on the right if I want to make any corrections here, and then revalidate and go through the process again. So I'm going to say OK. So then it kind of scrolled my spreadsheet here, so now I can see the scoreboard. So now it copied that scoreboard over here, the data. It put all these numbers in here, so now you can see all these percentage stats that you couldn't see over here, but you can see what the teams were shooting from the field and the free throw percentage. 60%. It's hard to lose shooting 60%. So, but I'm gonna put in my little game notes here. I'll just put in, Sixers shoot 60%, and Dr. J and McGinnis combine for 63 to down the Spurs in game 2. Okay. So I can put it in my little game note here. And now I'm ready to, let me hit this. I need to scroll up. That's where I was missing my save game results. So now that's what I want to do. I want to save these game results. So let's click this. You don't need to click this validate game results. I should do that here. If I click this, it says the validate end of game stats button is not used for games using manual entry stats. Okay. So let me do this box score. I should really make sure this works. Good, it did. So here's the box score. You can see it has all the stats in here. It shows my little notes. And if I want to maybe select it, this prep for print will kind of select this, and I can print it to a PDF if I want to, or I can use these dark mode for either if I want to take a screenshot of this so it looks like some scoreboard or some different colors, I can do that. It's a little crazy here, but anyway, you can get your box score. Now let's go back to my score sheet and save it. So I'll click the save button. Does a few Excel backflips. It saves all my game stats. And then it comes back and hopefully you'll get this message that says success. Do I want to save my PurpleWolf spreadsheet file now? I'm going to click yes, because it just saved my game stats, but that doesn't really save your whole PurpleWolf file to your hard disk. And that's what this is about. So it's a general rule I would recommend. Every time you save a game, it's good to save your spreadsheet to your hard disk so you don't lose it. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so that pretty much completes the process. So just to kind of confirm before we maybe erase or we go on to the next game, let's look at the schedule. This is a good thing to do after you finish any game, no matter whether you use the game logger or the manual entries. What I typically do is I'll go to the schedule and confirm that it updated the game result here. So it has, this was the game I just played, this second game between Philly and San Antonio. Got the Sixers winning 132-112. And over here it has my little game notes that I entered. So that looks good. And then if I go to the stat sheets, especially the PGL, the player game log, if I click that, let me go back to the score sheet and use this navigator button here. So I should use this more in these videos. So I go to my stats thing, go to the player game log. And now I want to confirm what it was. So again, let me jump to my main and go to my schedule. So the game ID here is this kind of formatted, this is for the second round, Spurs against Sixers, game number 2. But the easy way sometimes is to go over the season game number, which these are just consecutively ordered numbers for the games in your league. So I know this was game 5 in my league. So if I jump back to these stats, to the player game log, I have this. I'll go over to this season game number column and click on this little drop down thing here. And I can either sort it, or I'll use this to clear it and say, just show me game number 5, because that's the game I just played. So here you can see the stats. And one thing I should mention here, so you can see, I'll say in general, these look good. But you'll see these players here of the teams, the Philly team bench and the San Antonio team bench. It shows their ID and then it says team bench. Let me go back to the score sheet a second. And then I'm going to jump over here to this view. You can see here in the bottom, the team, what I entered here were these team rebounds. And on the score sheet that I had, it didn't differentiate between offense and defense. So I just put them all as defense, even though that's probably not correct. But I wanted to show this as an example of how to enter these team stats also. And if you and typically I think that would be it that you could really add there. I guess it's possible you could have, I guess if I had technical fouls, you could have a technical on the coach or something like that. But mostly it's going to be these team rebounds. And so that's where you enter those. And maybe just as a note, if you really want to track those thoroughly, that on your paper score sheet that you denote whether it's an offensive or defensive team rebound. Okay, so that's pretty much, yeah, this is just a way to confirm that all my stats got in there properly. It got to the stat sheet, it got to the schedule. So this was a success. And then you can either to go on to your next game. Let me move over here to my scorebook here. I would just reset my score sheet and then maybe enter another game or play another game with a game logger, whatever I want to do next. But that completes how to enter a game in PurpleWolf using the manual entry stat mode. I hope you might found this helpful, and maybe it can help you out with some of your basketball projects. That wraps up this PurpleWolf basketball spreadsheet video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to box out.